Oli ku There Is Still Hope, channel yesubi.
You want to be.
I'm alive. I'm here.
You're alive.
And therefore, if you want to introduce me, you have to say this is Miria Matembe,
A senior citizen.
A senior citizen, a child of God,
And
a voice of reason.
Voice of reason.
At least like that. A mother, grandmother, and that kind of thing.
Thank you.
That means I'm still here.
Thank you.
This former, but that shows you that these people who look at jobs and whatever and worship them, they need to know that those things perish and they go.
That you can leave a job and live a decent.
But when you know the rock on
life.
which you stand, being a child of God, then you continue to be.
Well, thank you very much for enlightening me. Let me ask you, 63 years of independence, that is a landmark for a country and for individuals who were alive at the time. It is something to celebrate, but also to reflect on. When you look at the founding fathers, the ones that fought for, participated in the battles and the debates in the run-up to 1962, they espoused a series of points, and I'll list down a bit of them so that we can have an anchor upon which to discuss. Self-rule was one of the very foremost pillars and aspirations of our forefathers. They thought and hoped that unity, justice, and equality will be the cornerstone of self-rule for the new country, Uganda. Has that been achieved? Honorable Matembe.
You're asking me?
I'm asking you.
You know, I was not there when they got it. I don't know what kind of justice and equality
but your reading of
and
history
unity
is sufficient.
That they wanted. I don't know. But me, if you ask me on that issue of, you said unity,
justice and equality.
I think generally they have not achieved that. But maybe to a certain extent. Because I don't know why you brought that particular item. Because those people, why did they focus on unity, justice, and what it is?
Equality.
Equality. It means there was no equality. The poor were poor, the rich were rich, the educated they were educated, the non-educated they were there suffering, and there was no justice, there was no fairness, there was no among the Ugandans. Now, as we stand here, the situation, like the environment, the economy, everything changed because you cannot stay static.
That is right.
In terms of, you talk of economic development, social development, whatever, I don't know whether you also talk of political development. Of course, things changed, moved from step by step. But in terms of equality, justice, and fairness, the struggles are still there. They are there, and those people, one thing that was not there that time is that the level of corruption, the level of greed, the level of selfishness and self-centeredness, the level of nepotism, that all those were very low. I think they were very low. But now they are at the highest. And those very things effectively affect what the objective of equality, justice, and fairness. Unity. They affect them very badly.
Okay. Dr. Tanga Odoi, when you look at the self-rule aspirations that the founding fathers had in the run-up to independence in 1962, the agitation for self-determination, which usually forms the cornerstone of any one country's search or community's search for independence, and the need to govern ourselves away from the colonial master's structure that was deemed not fit for purpose at the time. Are you confident that those aspirations have been achieved in your overview?
Thank you very much, host. And I want to thank Senior Citizen for kickstarting us off. I think the first thing is that emergent African states and emergent African leaders had different perspectives about what they think their African states at independence should look like. They were coming from the yoke of colonialism. Uganda was coming out of 68 years of British colonialism. If you go to other African countries like Ghana, they're also coming out of that domination. So all African leaders and African politicians all came out with that surge that we have lived under colonial rule, subjectivity for a long time. We must come out of this and have a nascent African state. They came up with different roadmaps, philosophical roadmaps, to attain what they think should be the best Africa. If you go to Kwame Nkrumah, he came up with the African personality, elevating the African as an able being than what colonialism had thought of an African as a laborer. The African personality as a philosophy was to give that African the confidence that you can do it, was to actually elevate the African, or to put Africa and African leaders to that perspective that you can do it. The African personality as a philosophy. If you come to other leaders like Julius Nyerere, our famous Julius Nyerere, he came up with the African socialism and the return to the Ujamaa, that Africa was disorganized by colonialism. What we had in pre-colonial Africa was already building up a base. Let's go back to traditional. Let's go back to Africa at the village. The African socialism. Living as Africans, working hard for what you eat, but helping as a family. A kind of collectivization. Then if you come to Uganda, Uganda came up with what was the common man's charter. Move to the left. Something which the leaders then were not sure about. But Uganda's surge to independence, of course, had that shaky background because of the existence of very strong kingdoms, and then the planting of independence at 1962 level with the Republican kind of feeling. So all this, if you go to Zambia, the humanism. So all this actually tailors to answer your question. At 1962 level for Uganda, what did we expect of Uganda? We wanted Uganda, which is free of colonialism, Uganda for Ugandans, Uganda as a nation state, Uganda where people are united, because Uganda was in fragments of kingdoms and chiefdoms. There was no issue, and egalitarian societies, like the Iteso, who did not have rulers, did not have kings. They had elders, Acephalous states, as we call them in history. So that was a background. Colonialism found Africa, which was in a way trading within themselves. East Africa had interterritorial trade. You know, communities had intertribal wars, but they were working. They were actually exchanging what they had, and they were living in a kind of pleasantry. Then the British came up with the policy of divide and rule through their indirect rule policy. that we can dwell on later. Now, when independence comes, the expectation of Africans is that we have left division. We should leave tribalism. We should now work better. Have we achieved, like you've asked, that high expectation? It's debatable. It is subjectivity. It is something someone argues either yes or no from the perspective, the political perspective of that person. To me, as an historian, I think we have achieved much of what we did not have, but we still have room to do better, to achieve better.
Honorable Miria Matembe, you have been a keen follower of the country's political trajectory up until now, where we seemingly find ourselves at the crossroads. Constitutionalism is threatened. You are part and parcel of the framers of the Constitution in 1995 that has now come under what many describe as attack. If you are to look at what has happened to that document and what you discussed in the Constituent Assembly, I know you might be pained, but what can be tweaked in order for that document to become better and offer us an opportunity at the kind of governance that we aspire for?
For me, before you jump to that constitution, I want to say that the one question you are asking, you know, the expectations of those people, they thought they were getting free from colonialism. To be free, to be like Ugandans, that Ugandan, you will belong to Ugandans, it will belong to us, we shall manage our thing, our resources and everything. But as you know right now, surely Uganda is under, they call it neocolonialism.
Neocolonialism.
Yeah, because when you look at who rules Uganda, is it Ugandans who determine what they should do? Is it Ugandans, or they are ruled by other people? And even things are now becoming worse and worse when you see the Chinese have taken over the land. When you, even a simple thing I want to show you, which I see and question myself. You go to that Kansanga place there. I ask, how has the Ethiopians and the Somalians taken over the whole area where Ugandans should be? That is a small thing. Now if you look at the whole land in this country, in Uganda, the grabbing of this land, and who owns the land now in this country? And if these people are looking at, they are going to be free from exploitation, oppression, and manipulation, are Ugandans free from those things? They are still imprisoned. The economy, I am not an economist, but how much debt? Do you know that our grandchildren are already indebted to pay the debts for this country? Even people who have not even enjoyed anything are already imprisoned by the debt that they have to pay because of the of borrowing of this country.
Great.
So how can you be independent when you are not politically independent, economically independent? And what is independence? What is independence? If, for instance, Uganda says, no, we are not going to get this law, and then America, where they say, no, now we have shut off all the money. Like now when you look at NGO, how we used to flourish and work, because the donors, the whatever development partners shut their resources and so on. So where is independence? For me, independence, I don't see it. That type of independence that we are wanted by our people.
The ideal
It is not there. And as you remember, the journey to independence, to self-rule and governance, broke down immediately within 4 years. You remember when the mutiny came, 64, then the Kabaka,
Then
66, then come 71, overthrow by Amin, and then continue until now. Finally, we had thought when President Museveni arrived, we said, now we are beginning a new journey.
Okay. We will go into the aspects of economic independence a little bit later, because that also forms one of the pillars and aspirations of the founding fathers. They thought that at a certain point, local enterprise would form the cornerstone and the structure of our economy. But allow me delve into what
that
is,
constitution
what is a growing
about
concern right now, and it is something that is pertinent to discuss. The Constitution finds itself in a spot of bother as a document that has been amended severally, to the extent that somebody begins to question why we are over legislating ourselves into and out of the realities that we face in the country, as one of the framers of the Constitution.
First of all, Ugandans need to know that this constitution, they call 1995 constitution, is no longer
the one you gave us.
Is no longer the constitution which we are using. So they need to know that that constitution was the first constitution that Ugandans made. You remember?
Ugandans as a people.
Yes. This Ugandans, when President Museveni came to this country in 1986, he came declaring a fundamental change. You know what a fundamental change means?
I do.
Turning things upside down. Like you get your hand and you do. If you were seeing here, now you do what? We are seeing here.
Changing things.
Fundamental change.
Yeah.
And the fundamental change was beginning with the Ugandans making their own constitution. In other words, what is a constitution? You can compare a constitution, a national constitution, as the foundation on which the nation is built. It is, you compare with a building. When you are building, you are making a building, you make a strong foundation. And that building strength depends on that strong foundation. And to us, the constitution was like, this is the first time Ugandans are going to make a foundation for their country. Yes, like he was saying, the country was divided by colonialists. You find Kisoro was meant to be in Rwanda, but half of it is in Uganda, and then Rwanda. You go to Busia, you go, for you, the Simanyankori is here, Simanyivichi, like that. And we had never had an opportunity to sit and agree to be together. Because for them, they had forced us to be one nation. And this was a time to sit as Ugandans and say, okay, we were made one nation, but this is the time, because we can't change it, this is the time we are going to sit together and decide on the foundation, to build Uganda on a foundation which we Ugandans are going to make. And say from today, once this foundation is done, then we start building Uganda upwards on a strong foundation. And that's why the 1995 Constitution was an effectively participatory constitution. As a person who was one of the member commission, when I see people rubbishing it, they say so many things about it, they blame us, they condemn us, and I say these are ignorant Ugandans. Any Ugandan who starts condemning, you are useless, you did nothing, Like they tell me when I'm arguing about Museveni, they say, you are the one who brought him, it is your fault. I tell them now, when I left him, why do you follow? Because it is now, it is now your time. I left. Why are you following? Okay. So this constitution, I'm still on that constitution. So it was participatory and made, and Ugandans that time were not the caliber of Ugandans today. They were real, knowledgeable, mature, intelligent Ugandans, including the local one. Because of the journey they had walked, they knew what they wanted, and they put everything in their views, and we came out, we made the constitution, the CA, we debated it, we promulgated it based on those principles, which I think you know. I can't tell them off cuff now, but they are there. Based on principles, unity was there, peace, what, progress, prosperity, all those. And we put that constitution there. The 1995 constitution.
No.
Now, when people say 1990 constitution, 30 years, I say no. The 1995 constitution was implemented for 5. It started to work for 10 years. And after 10 years, I would say there was a new constitution because there was even a new commission, which people don't know. I don't know why Ugandans don't know these things. We had the Odoi what? Commission, which made the 1995 constitution. After 10 years, we had the Ssempebwa Commission, which reviewed the constitution and removed the fundamental, the central fundamental part of that constitution. And therefore, from that time, I was worked for 10 years. After 10 years, the Ssempebwa constitution started working. I don't know whether it even works. So, people should understand that the constitution we made, which you are celebrating in 30 years, it is not the constitution that we made participatory with the views of Ugandans, which they gave with such passion and such freedom and such, by then, no corruption, no what, it was done very, very clearly.
Okay, you'll be sharing with us shortly what the aspects of the constitution that you think were either tampered with or completely desecrated from the document by the Ssempebwa Commission a little shortly. But allow me engage Dr. Tanga Odoi. Listening to Honorable Miria Matembe, I think it is a black spot on the governing National Resistance Movement, a party that under its stewardship, the Constitution has seen an unprecedented number of amendments, a Constitution that already has over 290 articles. For context here, the Constitution of the United States that was written more than 250 years ago for a country much larger in terms of size and population has 9 articles and has only been amended 27 times. And some of the amendments are actually amendments to amendments that were done. When you look at Uganda's position right now, do you think we are on the right track, especially in as far as the constant tinkering with the Constitution is concerned?
First of all, I think I really love listening to senior citizen. And now that she says there are 2 constitutions.
And 2 commissions.
That there was 1 constitution and another constitution, Odoi and Ssempebwa. Me, I think Uganda's constitution 1995 has spanned a period of 30 years now to 2025. It was actually 8th October 1995. 8th October 2025, yesterday, it had spanned 30 years.
30 years.
And let me say this for record, that every country's constitution reflects the history of that country. Any constitution a country makes, actually the members who make that constitution are cognizant of the history of that country. The history of that country, the bedeviled history of Uganda from 1962, even 1961, call it, must have informed the Honorable Matembes, the members of the CA, the respectable people of the CA, to make a constitution with that in background. And I think the preamble of the constitution of Uganda states what informed the formation and the crafting of that constitution. It is a historical context. Every constitution becomes a political tool, but has a historical background. And when it has social issues, it also becomes a social document. I want her to tell us, the listeners, whether when they were making this constitution, which he now says is the Odoke Constitution and the September Constitution, there was an article for amendment of a constitution. Was there an article that that constitution can be amended? Is that the mistake they made? Was it supposed to be made and cast on stone without provision for amendment? If there was provision for amendment, and if amendments are done on a constitution, does it make that constitution entirely new, or a constitution which was, but because there's possibility of amendment depending on situation, it was amended? Clarity must be made, because we are talking to young people who must now understand that the history of Uganda from 1962 to 1964, I'm happy she mentioned the historical mutiny of 1964, was dogged by chaos. Uganda was founded on a good platter, good economy, very resounding people from high school, from very King's College, Budo and others, leaders who are young, call them 26 years, Ibingira, 28, Adoko Nechon, 37 or so, Obote, 40 or 39, Mutesa, you know, very resounding leaders who had come from very renowned schools of the colonial system. Lancaster, you know, we had everything to take off. And I want to state for record that Uganda's problem has not been rain. It has not been poor land. It has not been because forests grow. Uganda's problem at independence, and that, especially up to 1986, was leadership. How they treated the constitutionality. Because we started the foundation of a constitution. Then someone abrogates the constitution. That alone is a dark history in constitutionalism of Uganda. And she is right, very right, that in 1995, we came up with a document which was quite participatory. And we put up all possibilities of how we can be governed. It can be movement system, it can be multi-party, it can be this. We also put in place in that constitution how that constitution can be amended. And we even put that it is treasonable to go against that constitution. So, if there is a case for NRM from 1986 to answer, or after 1995 to answer about that constitution, it must be seen along that line. Have they done what the constitution does not allow them to do? Have they amended provisions which, after amending, the country went back to Silamba, back to 1962, or back to Amini days? Every country's growth, whether social, political, economic, has its own positives and negatives. Okay. It is how we treat those negatives that makes a country. What about constitutionalism? I think constitutionalism, as an aspect, cannot be said to have failed completely Uganda under NRM. There are mistakes here and there, but we are better off than we were.
Honorable Matembe, what disservice did the September Commission do to Uganda?
You see, This man knows I'm a lawyer. And he knows, of course, the laws are amended. I know that. You could not write a constitution which you would not see amendment. But when a constitution is made, and down the road, didn't I say like 10 years? Yes. You are implementing it. You are beginning to implement it. Of course, when you start implementing, you see challenges here and there. Even law and the constitution is amendable. Because when you are putting things there, you have not implemented, then you see, oh, here there was a challenge, here there is. But when you have made it took us 5 years to make that constitution. 4 years were for the Uganda Constitutional Commission traversing this country a number of times, getting people's views and getting things which were crucial, which I think you raise up and we see what is happening. And so we put this constitution in place. And within 10 years, you make a new commission. You see, you can amend certain things. But where you even constitute a new commission, to begin like he's beginning a new job, which happened because the commission was constituted. And the chairperson of that commission, Sempewa, Professor Frederick Sempewa, who was with us in the original commission.
The Odoki.
Yes. Made a minority report. You can imagine. The chairperson who was in the other commission, when she comes to this one, the other time he was a member and we endorsed our constitution and finished. And now they appoint him the vice chairperson. He had to disagree as a chairperson because he knew what people had said. He knew what was crucial among those people. So when they amended this constitution, call it amending, but it was constitutional review commission. Amendment, Parliament was supposed to bring laws and Parliament makes them. But when you constitute a new commission, to me, you are making...
You're effectively making
a new constitution with another person who takes it. And the chairperson, that man who was with us, had to give a minority report opposing the fundamentals that were changing in that constitution. And I want to say that the implementation of that constitution, which we call constitutionalism, raised the crucial issue that caused the renewal of that constitution. And that was the issue of the presidential term limit. Because to Ugandans, central to that constitution was the issue of the presidential term limit. And everywhere we went in the country, people, because we are telling them what a constitution is, what it means, and what it contains, and what it can contain. Afterwards, we went to correct their views. But even the first journey which we traversed, they said the problem of Uganda, the biggest problem of Uganda is leaders, the presidents who don't want to hand over power peacefully. Everywhere, whether north, central, where, they are the problem. And we said, why? What do you want us to do now? What do we do? They say we need to limit their term. People, Ugandans said we need to limit the presidential term, first term 5 years, next term 5 years, and if we still, after 5 years, first term, if we still want them, then
they can go for a second.
They can for a second time. But after second time, no more. Then we said, but what if you still want them and they are working well? They said, that's what we want. We want our president to go when we still love him and want him, so that they don't have to run away and die in exile, like has been happening. And they said, the president, we Ugandans cannot remove the president through any other way, because the president has resources, has the guns, and has the power. All these things were discussed very, very clearly. And so to them was that when you limit the powers, I mean the term of this president, and give opportunity for peaceful handover of power from one president to another, then Uganda will begin on a good journey and travel until we realize what we wanted to realize. And we put that thing. Then you remember the other central thing to this constitution, which caused the removal, the making of another constitution, was the principle of separation of powers. That the parliament is independent, the judiciary, the executive, and they work hand together, closely together, but with independent powers.
And the ability of
and
each
you
to check
remember
the other.
The constitution which we made, according to that constitution, parliament was supreme. You know, executive, people think executive is the head. Yes, it's the head of the state and so on. But the supreme governing body in the political arena is parliament. What parliament decides, even if you go to America where they have to come and beseech parliament. Now, as soon as our constitution began to be implemented, the biggest challenge, and this doctor should know that, but they never speak the truth. The biggest challenge was the implementation, the constitutionalism part of it. Me, I used to say, I even say that maybe President Museveni, and I can assure you, he loved the constitution, because he said, we had a conversation, me and him, when they were not releasing resources for the work. And I said,
that is when you were still minister?
No, as a commissioner, when the constitution had started. And I said, but how much do you need a constitution? Because he said, oh, the biggest gift I would give to my country, Uganda, would be a constitution. Then I told him, by the way, if that is so, we don't have resources. People, there's no funds, and so we are not working. And he ordered, and we started getting resources, and we started doing this constitution. But to me, I think he looked at the constitution, but not constitutionalism. Because as soon as that sixth parliament was elected in accordance with the new constitution, with the principle of separation of powers working, immediately, it was not even, I don't think it was even 4 months or so, when the president fell out with the parliament over implementation of the constitution. Because I remember there was a contract of procurement. I mean, they wanted to work on Bujagari Falls to put the electricity. And President Museveni, maybe with his team, they had identified a company, an American company, which they wanted to use. And the parliament did some kind of research. And they said, no, this is a wrong company. And they refused. And Museveni was like mad. He said, how? He didn't know that he didn't have powers over parliament, because he used to be the chairperson of the resistance movement the first 10 years. He was the one in charge. Although there was democracy there, I can guarantee. We used to sit, even if it was 5 days, enclosed in there, discussing until we reached a decision. But this time, I think he hadn't known that he's not ruling over parliament. And then he came, how? the parliament cannot stop me. They said, but it is the constitution. That's the first time President Museveni said that, but the constitution is a mere paper. And for me, when he said that, it reminded me of Obote, who had said, but the constitution is a mere paper. And I want to tell you that from that time, the president started fighting the principle of separation of powers and said the parliament has no right to rule over me. And he set himself to ensure that he fights the parliament. In other words, constitutionalism was not what he was looking for.
Dr. Tanga.
And that was the beginning. And everybody knows, he even knows the quarrel. 6th parliament, talk of 6th parliament. Museveni can finish you. And he made sure he fought us until we got out of parliament by 7th parliament. He made sure the Ogora, the Benwacha, the Maratubo, the Matembe, the Kazora get out so that he takes over parliament. And that's when he removed the removal of the term limit in the 7th parliament. That was the end of the implementation of the meaningful constitution that we had made. And I'm telling you, from that time, the issue of constitutionalism, don't talk about it, you shall go in detail. Because they have human rights, whatever, all these central things to the constitution, they are not there.
They're not there. Dr. Tanga Odoi, you spoke about the fact that to amend the constitution is something that is embedded within the document, and it can be done. Right now, there is contestation in as far as where the deviation to the trajectory that we've taken happened, and many believe, by the way, that it was at the point where the presidential term limits were completely done away with. Since you believe that amendments can be undertaken, do you think it is prudent that members of parliament or the August House does debate this concern, and maybe the opportunity to put a cap is given and the country has a go at it?
You know, this is a very interesting debate, and I'm happy I'm listening from a person who was in the House making this constitution.
Yeah.
I asked that question as a vexed question, throwing a stone in a forest. That and when you are making this constitution,
and you've seen the bees,
could it be that you made a mistake by allowing that there are articles for amendment? That's what I threw in there.
You can't reason like that. I answered you long ago. I said Wama constitutions are made and laws are amended. So you cannot say, is it a mistake? The only mistake I would say, perhaps, the only mistake, if you can allow, and I will justify that mistake, is that we did not entrench that provision of removing the term limit. We didn't think about retrenching it. Why? Because of the environment under which we made the constitution. It was like people were born again. That time, I'm telling you, let me give you this environment. It was like, you know, everybody was saying yes, that issue had no question. It was like, yeah.
You didn't believe that anyone individual would want to entrench themselves in power.
No, we didn't. I'm telling you, to be honest, even if you ask our colleagues, even these people, I'm telling you, the President Museveni had come and redeemed us, and he was with us, and here
Uganda
is the man.
Uganda is not a theocracy.
Here is the man.
Uganda is not a theocracy.
Let me finish my statement. Here is the man, by the way, who had already written a book, who came with the main message that Africa's problem, and also Uganda in particular, the major problem of Uganda is governance, and the worst thing of it is the leaders who do not want to hand over power peacefully. It is in his book. He came with that, he declared it, we believed him. Now the people there say, yeah, We want people who want to live power peacefully and therefore reduce make some limit. And so a person who declares that and you know that what you are doing is what he really loves and it is written in the book, it's not a lie, would you expect that he would be the same person who would turn around? So that's why we never entrenched.
Doctor, I have listened to Honorable Matembe with respect. I don't see where President Museveni has a problem in whatever she's saying. I want her to listen to me and to the public. I don't see anything, even what President Museveni wrote in that book. What are Africa's problem? What is Africa's
or even
problem?
the words that he said when he was
even when he said that we don't want leaders to stay long in power.
Who don't want to hand over power peacefully?
At what stage has Museveni failed to hand over power peacefully?
When can I really discuss with you?
Let me tell you.
I should walk off.
No, listen to me.
You don't have to walk off.
You can walk off because it's up to you to be a debater. I'm not debating fire is better than mother here. I'm debating along what you've said. If members of the Constitutional Review Commission or Constitutional Making Body knew that there was need to entrench what they didn't entrench, where is Museveni's problem? Where is it? If they studied the history of Uganda properly, and they have said Uganda's problem has been leaders who overstay in power, or Africa's problem, and they failed to entrench that provision, how does Museveni take the blame?
Do you find inspiration?
Listen to me first. Moderator, give me time.
As he saw in 1986.
Moderator, give me my time. And I want Honorable Matembe to listen with respect.
She is.
I'm just quiet because what can I do?
What I am saying comes from what you've just said.
You talk, am I not listening?
You were in the constitution making process,
and so?
And you have admitted there are mistakes you made. You said you thought that the man who has written a book that Africa's problem is leaders staying long in power would not be a problem. Were you writing the constitution for Museveni or the constitution for Uganda?
You think you have asked a sensible question?
Let me tell you.
Look here. He should not ask me. If he asks me, I answer.
Okay, let me present myself.
Don't ask me.
Let me present myself.
I answer you.
I don't have any room to disagree on petty, trivial things. I am dealing with what she says. I was not a constitution making body. They were there. I asked questions which are fundamental. Did you make a constitution that should not be amended? If you knew that they are need to entrench this and the other, because you must have done benchmark. You must have gone out to benchmark. And you must have even benchmarked by reading Uganda's history of constitutionalism. And if it had failed because leaders overstay in power, there was need for you to entrench it. If you didn't entrench it, what is Museveni's weakness there? What is the blame game on Museveni?
Manipulating those weaknesses.
No, please. I want to say, if the members now admit a senior citizen is admitting their mistake, I am still asking, Museveni has no role in making them fail to entrench that competition.
The president, Mr. Museveni for that matter, Honorable Matembe, let me just finalize with Dr. Tanga Odoi. It is incumbent upon leaders to be the stewards of anyone document and a constitution for that matter, to be able to set the precedent of what can be done or happen in the governance trajectory. President Yoweri Museveni maybe had an opportunity to demonstrate to this country that in as much as you might want power and to entrench yourself as a president or as a leader, you ought to understand that you don't have to exercise it the whole 9 yards. And maybe at that point, it informs us the kind of thinking that the likes of Honorable Matembe had when they looked at the man who had written a book, the man who had spoken on the steps of Parliament. It was more like a reassurance.
Does that constitution has an article that power belongs to the people?
It does.
And who should exercise it through what?
I don't know whether I could talk.
No.
Let me answer.
I cannot.
Because he's asking silly questions and I can't answer them.
The Constitution of Uganda, silly as it may
you'll be answering those questions.
Silly as it may be, has the power belongs to the people, who shall exercise that power through ABCD. If they exercise that by voting leaders, which leaders now do what they are doing to amend, where is the problem of Museveni?
Okay, can I now?
What I am saying, what I'm saying.
You've asked another question.
No. What I'm saying with specificity, a blame game in whatever happens in the country should not be apportioned on an individual. There was a body charged with making a constitution. There was a body given money to benchmark and make that constitution. If the review team had removed the entrenchment, you would blame the same paper commission, notwithstanding what she talks about minority report. What Honorable Matembe's business here is, and everywhere I've discussed with her, is Museveni. But here is the Honorable Matembe. The Museveni issue is the only thing she has.
Let me share with you an aspect that forms one of the aspirations of the founding fathers. We've dealt with self-rule that was anchored on unity, justice, and equality. We've dealt with constitutionalism. The forefathers also envisaged a nation where leadership serves the citizen and not self-interest.
Where doesn't this leadership serve the citizen?
Can I speak now?
Please.
Where?
I want to speak. And
I'll listen.
The problem,
I'll listen to you.
The problem
without interruption.
The problem with me,
but you also leave me time.
Is
of course, you will get your time, no doubt.
Is when I'm speaking. Because for me, I speak the truth, I speak my mind, I speak honestly. When I sit here with people who are deceitful, who speak lies, who do all these things, that's why I was telling you, next time don't call me with people with whom we can balance. Because me, I speak the truth like this. The president comes, I remember I told you, we were suffering in this country because of who? Presidents. Not so? Who are not leaving power. Military, what? And a president comes and tells you fundamental change. I told you here. And he declares the real problems. He says it clearly and documents it. And because he's a leader, people believe. I mean, we are supposed to believe in these leaders. We believe. We went because we knew everybody, we make the constitution. And I said, yes, if you want to call us stupid or whatever, we were not stupid. We go and made the constitution. I said that the only thing which you can accuse us of is not entrenching. You hear? I admitted that. And then he's speaking on that to say that, but yes, we didn't entrench. And I said, why? Because we believed in this leader before the people themselves said we need to limit term. He had already said the problem. But for them, they had identified properly that why they don't leave power is because they get power, they get military, they get resources, they capture our country. And we
Honorable,
and we belong nowhere. No, I must finish because I must answer these things.
All right.
And then when Ugandans say no, he wants to amend the constitution, and can you imagine when we resist, he gets 5 million shillings and buys the members of parliament. They are on the removal of term limit. When it came to removal of age limit, you saw the army, I mean the military, how it invaded the parliament and they maimed people. And when he asks me, where is the fault of Museveni? I say, is this man sleeping? Is his head working? Is his head... Who doesn't see that? Who doesn't see that that is the problem?
Okay, Honorable Matembe, many thanks for that submission. At around this time, let's go for a break. And when we return, we shall continue this discussion and also look at some of the other aspirations of our founding fathers, including the fact that they envisaged public institutions that were free from political or state capture. Has that happened or it has completely failed. We'll be right back. You're watching On the Spot.
You say it's coming.
All right, we are back. We are back on the spot, and the discussion is heated behind the scenes, but no doubt we are here, and we shall continue to look into the 63 years of Uganda's independence. We've talked constitutionalism and self-rule, whether we are actually governed by our own people and leaders, the ones that we elect, is also a matter that seems to be debatable. The Honorable Matembe earlier spoke about the fact that many of the decisions that are made at economic level are made by individuals that may not necessarily be in government. That speaks to the dynamics that are of the global political economy. Let me return to the panelists, my guests this evening, and let me allow Dr. Tanga Odoi to very swiftly respond, and then we move to the next pillar of the aspirations of our forefathers.
I accept quite ably,
yes,
that the Ugandans who sat to make the constitution, I think those are the creme de la creme.
They were sober.
They were the creme de la creme. Now, the creme de la creme that made the Constitution put provisions of the Constitution, put provisions that should be entrenched, the method in which they can be removed. Like you cannot just come and abolish a district. There are methods, put provisions where they think this is where we find comfort for Ugandans. They were not supposed to make constitution for an individual. They were supposed to make constitution for Ugandans. And they had benchmarked what I said earlier, the history of Uganda. They had also benchmarked on other constitutions before arriving at our constitution. So when I hear the Honorable Matembe thinking that we are a theocracy, a Christian state, even where Christianity now, where Christians also make mistakes, and even Christians are corrupt, think that, oh, you see, we believed in President Museveni because he had written this. That belief is okay. To me, if President Museveni wrote his opinion in a book, that is okay than even keeping to himself. But you have to interrogate the history of Uganda, then entrench what you want to entrench. Now, if it was not entrenched and Parliament, which is representing the people, amend that constitution or even that article, how do you blame it on the president? That is the point I differ with her on.
A major flaw on the part of the people you described as creme de la creme.
The creme de la creme should have done their work. And since one of them is here, take the blame in a sober way, than to make constitution for an individual.
Dr. Tanga Odoi, before we go, you've just spoken about something, and I also need to interrogate it. Would you, for example, be comfortable if there is a review of the constitution or an amendment to a certain one article, and we state it very clearly that aware that an individual or a political leader can grow the tendency to want to entrench himself or herself in power, we are putting it thus that term limits or age limits are at this particular cap?
They will modify your words.
They will modify, of course.
Your words can be modified because your tendency, the words tend to particularize an individual. First of all, if you even want to do that, you have to satisfy Ugandans that in the period when it was not there, the following mistakes were happening, or this happened as a result of its absence. You must put that justification. I wrote a paper, I presented to Parliament the justification why age should not be a factor to negate good leaders from continuing to rule. I presented a paper, go to the Hansard. I was one of those academics who stood firm and interrogated the history of Uganda in that brief summary, where leaders were young. Is it biology or ideological concept? Are we saying Uganda's problem came as a result of leaders being old? or leaders who got Uganda at independence were young. They should have done better, but they lacked the ideological grasp, and Uganda went into limbo. I asked that question, and I am open to anyone for a debate. If we had leaders who were not 40 years, and they controlled the country which was towards takeoff, and by 1966, 1970, they had messed the country and handed it over to a dictator for 8 years. And then after that, they handed it on to leaders who were not taking long. Honorable Matembe and others should tell me, between 1979 after Min, to 1986, how many leaders did we have? Were they failing because of longevity in power, or inexperience and lack of political ideology? I want that debate.
Do you appreciate...
You know, after that we had Lule. After that we had Obote too. Do you remember that? We had Obote coming back, the second Obote. Obote goes, we have the Okelos. The Okelos go, we have experimental government. We have Lule for 68 days. We have Binaisa and Tebe Woma. We have, you know, were they overstaying in power for us to fail? Museveni has overstayed in power according to Honorable Matembe, but through an electoral process. If the people don't want him, they will reject him on the ballot. Now, if you assess his longevity of 40 years and what Uganda has gained, or the consequences of his rule, with the other ones who are many and failed, do you say it is because you removed that 5-year period? That's why the other one failed? I think we must debate. We must debate. What are you going to tell me to justify that we should impose on Ugandans age limit?
Do you believe in the
term limit?
Do you believe in the multiplicity of factors that define any one particular reality of a country, and indeed the leaders that govern countries?
Yes, of course. There are multiplicity of factors.
Yes.
Now,
and age, competence are but just.
Now, I am an historian. I have the evidence that Museveni started ruling Uganda at 41 years. Call it so. Or 40 years. He is now 80 or 81 years. Let's interrogate that period. And if we interrogate that period, do you see Uganda's trajectory as all negative? No. Do you see that Uganda has achieved this, but there are other areas which are still areas of failures? That is an assessment of a leader.
Do you believe that any other individual leader can be better in aspects that have failed one, and so it's the justification for an opportunity for another leader to also take on?
That's okay. That's why we have 5-year elections. Electoral period of 5 years should tell the world this leader with 5 years has failed. Vote him out. You do not change the constitution which they made gives us how to change leaders.
Okay.
It does not make us change leaders through the gun. The gun, bullets more than ballots, had dictated Uganda's history. That is a history we benchmark as we make the constitution. Now we have elections. Call them anything. When we use elections, the population that is hurt with Museveni's rule, should throw him out.
Imagine.
Should throw him out. What other method will you use to throw Museveni out? If the constitution says it should be through 5-year term elections. Which method will you use?
I want to say something there. And for me, as I
talk, keep quiet and listen
from my heart.
Who talks from not heart?
I'm explaining.
No, I also talk from my heart.
I left you to talk. If I'm using my words, I talk from my heart.
Okay, please.
Can you stop him?
Submit. He has kept quiet.
If I say I talk from my heart and from my... I don't know whether to call it...
Let us hear your heart.
Because this man Museveni, whom this man thinks I hate, came telling us here.
You've made that point very clear.
That democracy...
And there is even a book written to that effect.
I'm now on elections.
Okay.
Changing power. He said he used to oppose these people who are talking of political parties, and he was defending the movement and saying democracy is not in a form. Democracy must be seen in practice.
That is right.
It's not in a form. That was the great man that time saying that. Okay? Because he was looking at the democracy which he had run away from when they went to elections, or both his elections, and they were rigged and people were closed off and so on. When we were in UPM, we ourselves. And he said democracy is not in form, it is in substance. That's when we were in national resistance movement government. And he used it to emphasize that. In other words, he did not believe in elections that are happening like now, where you seem to be going through elections, but when they are just in form, not in democracy, democracy in substance, that you have gone there. And this man knows. Right from that, let me finish. From that time, he talked of elections, and I must rubbish the elections that are going on.
I'm just going to give you an opportunity to do what you want to do. And I will call it enlightening, not necessarily rubbishing. Honorable Matembe, allow me give context to this. When you talk about elections, this forms the pillar that I was going to share next, that our founding fathers in 1962 and the years in the run-up to independence looked at elections as a bedrock of multi-party, dispensation. We are now at a point where political parties are given an opportunity to contest power. And this is where the opportunity to say what you want to say comes in. Do you believe that the multi-party dispensation that we have right now offers us an opportunity to entrench the kind of governance systems that our forefathers envisaged? Or, in your words, if your sentiment is anything to go by, all of it is a sham?
May I come first? First of all, I was here when the first person to contest with President Museveni within the NRM government. When was it? Because originally it was him alone, 1996. Nobody to oppose him. Okay?
Within the NRM.
Within the NRM.
Yes.
The others were those DP, those people. Was it 2001 when Besigye came up to offer himself as a candidate to contest within NRM, with Museveni? All of us were called NRM. But the other ones, DP, UPC, he did not mind. But when one from NRM, Besigye, came to contest, that was the beginning of now fierce and violent elections. And they were, I was there, I was the Minister of Ethics and Integrity. I knew what happened in Rukunjiri, people being beaten, others killed because of opposing, somebody contesting with President Museveni, before we even went to the multi-party.
That is right.
And eventually, the term limit is removed, the multi-party dispensation is opened, and you know what happened. And Besigye comes in as, was it the reform agenda? The first time it was reform agenda together. Leave me to answer my question. I'm talking of democracy through elections, which ever since opposition came into power, this is my view. Because the man we are talking about doesn't want opposition, he made sure, yes, we opened parties, but the environment was strictly not conducive to the participation of these political parties. Organizing, establishing their offices, mobilizing and building their parties, whatever parties are there, are doing it in such and conducive environment. You know, what don't you see? You disturb us here. What happened to Kyagulanyi when he came in on the when he came on the public platform? What happened? Even right now, why do you disturb me?
Allow Doctor to interject.
Do you call those
Honorable Matembe, allow Doctor
violence, intimidation, militarization? Do you call that
let me also
electoral democracy?
Let me say the literal truth
as you are,
which comes from my heart.
As you are submitting from your heart.
Which also comes from my heart.
Please do.
That we had a movement system, which was the best display of democracy of a different type within Africa. If we had encouraged and gone with the movement system like President Museveni wanted it, we were good to go. But the pressure came from the so-called multi-parties. The pressure to open up came from the so-called multi-parties with their foreign funding and external wings. Those supporters, the IMF, those kind of neo-colonial tendencies. No, if we had continued like he said, he submitted quite well, that we had a movement system, everyone belonged there, and we are all happy. But where was the pressure from? Open up, not President Museveni pressurizing to open up. When you say you were the Minister of Ethics at that time, I was not a young boy at that time. I was not. And I'm here. It was you or supporters of multi-party who wanted it open. Honorable Matembe did not want multi-party.
Does that mean you're not a supporter of multi-party politics?
No. Initially, we were comfortable.
Are you a supporter of multi-party politics or not?
Listen to me. I come from a part of Uganda where parties had been not ethnic but religion.
Okay.
DP, Catholic, UPC, Protestant. I have my friends. With us when UPM came, we said this is now maybe the savior. Because our fathers were professing this because they are Anglican. The others were professing the other because they are DP. That they could not even share a road. You pass the other side as DP, you pass this side. It was bad in Tororo. So when movement system was, we felt that was one of the hallmark of fundamental change. But Honorable Matembe knows she was not a supporter of multipartyism then. She wanted the movement system. And she should testify here for the public to know. The pressure that came, President Museveni reluctantly opened up to multipartyism. We went for a referendum. Because power belongs to the people, according to the Constitution.
That's
and the Constitution
2005.
states that referendum is one of the ways. That's how we changed to multipartyism. Now, when multiparty dispensation comes, let me wind up. Let me ask a question. When multiparty dispensation now takes root, and President Museveni is elected 5 years, who do you blame?
Do you believe, Dr. Tanga Odoi, in the ideals of democracy? Yes or no?
Yes.
What do you think are the bedrocks?
The participation of the people in how they are governed.
And various
and that participation of the people, that contestation of power and how the people are governed is not only for presidency. We have over 3 million leaders. How are they elected? We have LOC1, which is people's government at the grassroots. If the people pick without any, that is their democracy. They pick their leader the way they want. Honorable Matembe's focus is on President Museveni. You see, she diverted us into when Besigye came, we are discussing.
She was giving us context.
No, she was not giving context. Instead, she was patricianizing. I'm the one giving you context. That democracy and governance should be seen from that large hallmark, not President Museveni. I'm tired of this also.
Anyway, let me tell you, Museveni is not your brother. He's my brother. So, I know.
It's okay.
Let me talk what I want.
He's my leader.
Don't sit there as if he's fighting for
He's my leader.
For me,
he's my leader.
But when I start talking, you should be quiet.
Doctor and Honorable.
What I want to say here, on what
Dr.
he
Matembe should accept that the brother has brought tangible achievements to this country.
Should you also not accept that Dr. Matembe's brother has superintended over
that is the assessment I see.
For me,
that's the assessment I see.
Okay.
No leader has failed. No leader can rule for 40 years without some failures. But
right.
the failures should not negate
excuse
the
me.
achievements.
When I want to talk,
So
he
talk
comes
positive
in.
about your brother.
Submit.
For
Your
me,
brother made you a minister.
For me, you are rubbish. For me, don't provoke me too much.
Just submit.
Because,
Just submit.
and what I submit is the real things.
But why is
Now,
mine not
now
you?
why is he coming in when I want to talk? I
You
leave
talk.
him to talk.
Doctor,
I'll
allow
keep
her
quiet.
so
I'll
that we
keep
can
quiet.
transition
Okay.
shortly
He
to something else.
of multi-party and political parties pressurizing the removal of the movement. I was in that movement all along. By the time there was opening up, that movement of ours has turned into almost a one-party political system. And that is the truth. You were not there in politics. He was in a lecture at Makerere, I don't know where. But we people
Makerere.
who were involved, even that's how Besigye came in. You remember the letter he wrote, you know, questioning things, and then that's the problem. And that movement, even if you ask the Semogere, whoever, by the time of opening up the political parties, it had almost culminated into a one-party state. And that person was like, whatever he decides is what will work. You get it? And so the international community also, it was not the internal only or whatever, but the international community, because it was seeing what was going on. And we people from the inside, I'm not going to sit because he will argue.
No.
We used to see it, let me tell you.
Don't incite him to argue that.
We used to see it, we people, like we people from Western region.
Okay.
We used to talk, sir, things are not going right.
Our country.
Things are not going right, you know? So it had almost turned into a one-party state. And our constitution was saying that we should never go into a one-party state. And so at that stage, even when we were at Chankwanzi, he was saying, Tubejeko. He did not, in his heart, he was not opening the space. He was saying, Tubejeko, tugambe nti political parties are now open.
For the sake of it.
But
okay, that is well understood.
For the sake of it. And therefore, he kubejako for the sake of it, but the political environment to build, to create parties and build them was never there, and it is not there. Even up to now, it is not there. And
Honorable,
that is the truth, and every Ugandan sees that.
Honorable Matembe and Dr. Tanga Odoi, that particular debate cannot be completely exhausted within the time frame of on the spot this evening. But allow me ask Dr. Tanga Odoi, one of the other pillars or the aspirations of our founding fathers was public institutions to be free from political or state capture. I want to ask the question, do you think that institutions of government today are free from political or state capture?
Now, it depends on the institution you want to talk about. If you talk about institution in a wide perspective, there are institutions which are not. First of all, state capture is a theoretical discussion. What you can call state capture, another person might say, no, that is a state working within the institution. If you see parliament, parliament is a political arm. There's nothing parliament does. It must do the politics. And it must do politics well aware of what the state wants. If you saw, you talked about the three arms. I think Honorable Matembe is the one who talked about the three arms of government. We should work separately. They don't work separately. Even
there is an interconnectedness.
Even in the philosophical sense of the Athens, the city-states of Athens, where those doctrines
were written
and came out with. It was not supposed to be cast in stone that parliament is completely detached from. No.
Who said that? Me?
Allow me to state very clearly. Maybe my question could have been a little bit lacking in clarity, and I must admit, when you see the conduct of the police in execution of its role of maintaining law and order. It has often gone to the extremes where we cannot differentiate between the police and the state.
I find that rather intriguing. I'm not kind to police when they don't do right. I'm on record. When we had the Kawempe election and some caning of an opposition leader who I thought was not going to win got sympathy vote, I was not kind to that, because the person you are beating is a leader. But those are elements within the forces. Any state has, let me talk of the Platonian state of three arms. The state, the philosopher kings, like he says. The state, the auxiliary.
Very quickly.
Then the state, the producers. They must work in tandem. So when there's failure in one, it affects the other. Now what happens here is that there is a bit of, not even politicization, there's a bit of hurting the police to gain relevance. If they say the public management order something, which was outlawed, I think, but appealed, says you should not do this, follow it. If they say don't go demonstrating and stepping on people's tomatoes in town, because that's their livelihood, don't go against it. Why would I, as NRM, fail to do what the police wants me to do? I can tell you, as chair of the NRM Electoral Commission, in all those elections, I had to write to police. I had to write letters of notification to the police that in between this period, the NRM will do the following activities. Therefore, if you see us in the villages, we want to request you to allow us to do it. And they would answer back. But when you go against that and say, we shall never write to police, it is our right. Right is not absolute.
Now, that is one aspect of state capture of institutions. Recently, we had a letter that was authored by the president, and it was directing institutions and agencies of government to assist a one business person in the construction of Nakivubo Channel. It was very clear that he had been given the go-ahead even without expressly going through the modalities that are supposed to be undertaken by any one investor. This letter stated that all attendant agencies assist this investor.
But that's the power of the executive. That's the power of the president. Read about the state. Read about the presidency. The president has power to say, for the good of this and the other, do this and help him do it. That's the power of the president. It is within the constitution which they made. They're the ones who made it. She's a lawyer, a doctor in the law.
Leave me alone.
I won't.
Can I talk?
Submit.
As far as I'm concerned, and all Ugandans know, when it comes to the principle of separation of powers, that is the centrality of governance. Where the executive is the implementer of what the parliament finally comes out with, and where the judiciary is supposed to sort out the issues which are disagreed or whatever, call it that. Me, as far as I'm concerned, the Parliament of Uganda, the best Parliament of Uganda that worked within the Constitution in its powers was the 6th Parliament. And the 7th Parliament, as it was finishing, for me, as far as I'm concerned, that is the last Parliament.
That's where you are.
Please, can you shut him down? That, as far as I'm concerned, I'm saying my views, and I'm sorry as far as I'm concerned, because we were fought right and left until the president achieved what he achieved. And from that time, the parliament, it belongs to the president, to the executive. That's what I know, and that's what happens. That's why you see even right now, Parliament is not sitting. Do you know that Parliament is not sitting? Because the Speaker of Parliament, can you imagine the Speaker of Parliament on campaign trail? It had never happened on campaign trail. On campaign trail. with the president.
She has a political
Let
party.
me speak.
Finalize.
You spoke yours.
We have
so when it comes to judiciary, the independence of judiciary is nowhere. I'm not saying that totality of it, but the freedom and the kind of independence of judiciary expected in the principle of separation of powers. And I'm not saying that they don't relate. No, they relate, but they have where they say, yes, this is us now. You get it? Now, the issue of corruption, the issue of self-centeredness by the leaders in this country, not the top only, but all. What now motivates Ugandans to go into leadership position is eating for themselves. I mean, you've seen all this money, you've seen all the buying, you've seen all this. So to me, this means elections mean nothing, means there is capture of state institutions which are supposed to be leading the people, the oppression and exploitation of the poor, all these things. When the principles you are putting there, which was the focus of our founders of this nation, where they are, they must be crying down there. They must be crying. Because, for instance, I want to quote this one. The Minister of Justice the other day said that transition of this government will not be done through elections. There are rooms which matter, which have already decided on transition of this government.
Okay.
Now, if the Minister of Justice...
That's his view.
Can with authority... No, minister is a minister. When a minister speaks, when a minister in a government, in democratic governance where they think of cabinet and ministers, when a minister speaks, he's not speaking his opinion. He's speaking what is happening.
Honorable Matembe, many thanks for that submission, and your sentiments are well captured. Dr. Tanga Odoi, the spectre of corruption cannot be wished away. What we see happening, especially in this election period, and something that was also evident during your party's primaries, but also the election of the SEC. I do not know whether in the rooms available within the National Resistance Movement's political dispensation, how do you tackle the issue of corruption?
Well, corruption...
When is corrupt also?
That is Honorable Matembe.
Yes, I mean,
saying,
people...
how do you tackle the issue of corruption? How do you
thinking
very
of
quickly,
me.
very quickly.
That's your thinking of me. That's your thinking of me. You have not scientific research on that.
Doctor, quickly.
Corruption is not a one-man show. Corruption is something which should be fought by all of us. Okay. By all and sundry. It cannot be even blamed on a political party.
How are you tackling it as a political party?
The tackling is what we are doing through the institutions of government. And calling on people to revisit their own souls. You cannot tell me that you will blame everything on Museveni. What about Matembe? What role are you doing to fight that corruption? Yes, you may say Tang is corrupt because you don't agree with me, without any scientific thinking, without any evidence.
Everybody out there knows.
Without any evidence. Everybody knows about you what they know. What they know about you, what they know about me is their perspective.
Okay.
So I think corruption is not something you can blame on one person. Like she wants to blame Museveni.
Did I say it is on Museveni?
There's nothing, no. Even if you had time.
Dr. Tanga Odoi, I'm afraid we are out of time.
Thank you very much.
I do appreciate your perspectives and insights.
Weebale kulaba There is Still Hope. Okumanya ebisingawo tukubire
ku 0752 34 14 47 oba ku 0761 08 83 15.
osobola n'otufuna ku email eya tshitv74@gmail.com. eno ye There is Still Hope, channel y'essuubi.